Hi folks, bit of a different video from me today. Just wanted to jump on here and show you the app that I've been working on called Cocomposer. It's a tool for composers using the digital audio workstation that you can run on your iPad, and it uses network MIDI in order to trigger MIDI notes in the form of articulation key switches for your various sample libraries. So if we just head into Cocomposer, and we have our initial tutorial. The first step is to connect it to your DAW, which we can do on your Mac using Audio MIDI Setup, or on Windows, I believe. Apps like RTP MIDI pick up that Bonjour network MIDI protocol. So in Audio MIDI Setup, this is your normal view. Hit Command 2 for the MIDI Studio, hit the globe for network setup, and you can now add a new session, and the iPad is picked up as the app is broadcasting MIDI. Hit connect, and we have a new participant, and we'll see that MIDI come into Logic Pro in just a second. So next it highlights our fader panel, where we can control CC1 and CC11 by default. In many sample libraries this is your dynamics and expression characteristics, but we can change the CC value to anything you like, and in edit mode we can add up to 6 faders. Now, your articulation banks live on the right hand side, and they're sorted into their own collapsible stack based on the orchestral family that they belong to. You can add articulation banks from templates from well-known sample libraries, or create custom banks of your own for libraries where you may have less rigidity in the MIDI values and the key switches, or maybe even for your own custom instruments. Your stack workspace will be backed up to your iCloud and will automatically re-import if anything happens where you need to delete and reinstall the app, but just to be on the safe side, there's always a manual backup that you can save to files on your iPad. Now we can switch over to the Modulation Assistant panel, where if you ever have any difficulty moving from one key or chord to another, this may be able to help. Enter individual notes to build a chord in the start and end chord block, and then the intermediary chord that is suggested to you can be altered, and then audition up to 9 flavors of intermediary chord between them. You can add up to 4 intermediary chords between the start and end. You can revoice those intermediary chords to cycle through the available chord inversions, and you can tap and hold all of the chord blocks to audition that chord by sending those MIDI notes out to your digital audio workstation. And if you ever need a reminder, just shake. So this is your main default view. Our CC1 and CC11 information is coming into Logic Pro, as we can see at the top. So let's head into edit mode with the padlock and make a quick stack. By default, new notes will head down to C-2, where a lot of sample libraries tend to start their key switches. Hit done and add the next one, and by default the MIDI note will head to the next one for you. If you're happy with the bank, hit edit to give it a name, change its color, and if you want you can save it to your templates. Block the panel so you can't make any further changes. Now as we cycle through these articulation switches, you'll see that in our contact library, the articulation is changing for each one, moving from legato to flutters, and then bringing in some dynamics and expression. Heading over to the Modulation Assistant, so let's just start inputting our chords. And we can see the Roman numeral above the intermediary chord to let us know which chord that is relative to the end chord. Both panels are fully interactive, so we can shape dynamics and expression as we're holding the chord buttons to audition the chords. By default we have a happy medium of color and chromaticism. Let's bump up the chromaticism and we should be able to hear some more semitonal movement. If we think we need an extra chord between the two to really sell the change, we can add another chord up to 4 and use the XY pad to fill them in. And again we see the Roman numerals for what that chord root is relative to the end chord. Back in the articulation banks, we can remove individual articulations from the bank, or remove the whole bank itself with a little trash icon. And if we've manually saved our configuration previously, head into edit mode, use the green import button, find your workspace that you saved earlier, and it populates everything back there for you. So as I said, I'm finding this really useful for my workflow, being able to delegate out that very specific task within that workflow of switching articulations to a second screen. Also having two interactive faders where I don't have to have any kind of external hardware and I don't have to rely on my very unreliable physical faders on my MIDI keyboard. It just feels like a really powerful extension of my setup. So if there are any DAW-based composers who have an iPad lying around and they're curious about how that can contribute to their composition workflow, head on over to my website, elliottnicklin.com. I'll leave a link in the description. Enter your Apple ID or iCloud email address at the top of the homepage. And when the beta goes live in the coming weeks, you'll be the first to know. Any feedback from what you've seen so far, and certainly any feedback you have from using the beta, I'm all ears, because I'd love to make this a really useful application for everyone in our community. So that was a little bit about Cocomposer. So back with more business as usual content very soon, I hope. But until then, I will catch you in the next one.